3 ways to stop being a nice guy. Hi everyone, Dan Dos Santos here from The Geek Physique. Let's get straight into it. So, I'm a recovering nice guy and I'm still on my journey. The journey never stops, right? We're never the finished article. But these are 3 things that have served me really well on my own journey. And so the first one is ask yourself, are you nice or are you just afraid? This is so hard to admit to yourself, and it was so hard for me to admit to myself. But once I realized that actually I wasn't as nice as people said I was, or I let off. And this is something I've read and heard about from other recovering nice guys, that oftentimes it's just that you're afraid to really get what you want out of life. And I strongly believe this is one of the first steps on your journey. You need to admit that it's actually fear holding you back. Because when you say you're nice or I'm nice, it doesn't really seem like a negative thing on the surface. But when you say that I'm afraid, you can start asking yourself, afraid of what? And it gives you practical things to go and tackle to stop being a nice guy. So some things for me was, for years, I was afraid to speak my mind in social situations, in my family, just generally. I was just scared to speak my mind and say what I believe to be true, or to push back on people and demand what I want. And also to have standards with my friends, or standards in my career, in what I wanted out of life. And so think of like I said, the first step is admitting to yourself that you're afraid, you're not just nice, and then asking yourself, what am I afraid of? It could be as specific or general or as you like, but you can even make a list of these things, of what you're afraid of, and ask yourself, what is one thing you could do and would do to make a step in the right direction? Because there's numerous studies that show if you're afraid of something, gradual exposure to that thing is how you overcome it, not closing yourself off from it and just saying you're just not that guy. You're never going to be that guy. How are you ever going to stop being a nice guy or stop being afraid if you don't put yourselves in situations where you can grow? The second one is, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. You've probably heard this term before, but one of the things that I wasn't getting out of life when I was right at the start of my journey of being a nice guy was the right kind of attention from ladies, from women, right? So girls always said I was too nice, right? And in my earlier relationships in my life, I was walked all over. And I don't blame those people. I actually blame myself for that, because I didn't stand up for what I wanted. And part of this is, women want men who are physically and mentally capable and have that under control. They don't want men that aren't capable at all, because it goes back to the original point of being nice. Are you nice out of choice, or are you nice because you have no other choice, right? And it kind of ties back, all of these steps tie together, but ties back to step 1. Once you figure out what you're afraid of doing and you start tackling those fears, you then become capable, right? And that is where you can make a choice to exert being capable or not, right? And it will start to show. And actually, this is a slight side point to this. If one of your symptoms of being a nice guy is not really getting the attention from women you want or you feel that you deserve, I would say go away and tackle those things that you're afraid of, right? One of them might be you're afraid in social situations, right? You're not very sociable. So just start small, right? Maybe you don't even have conversations with people. Just have conversations, right? It's not about trying to get a girl's number or trying to meet someone and trying to get a girlfriend, right? That's the end goal. Start to break it down into small steps. What's the first step? have a conversation with someone, right? Ask them about their day. Build on it, build on it, build on it. And over time, you'll get better and better at that thing. You'll get less and less afraid, and you'll be more and more capable, right? And it also ties into when you hear men should be protectors and providers, right? You should be able to provide, you should be capable of providing, and you should be capable of protecting. So if you're physically and mentally weak, this is where building yourself up physically will help yourself build yourself up mentally, right? So get yourself in the gym, start resistance training. Also, start martial arts classes. I would recommend something where you learn attack and defense in as real a scenario as it gets. So hitting pads, soft sparring. I'm not talking about proper sparring, but sparring drills, things of that nature. You want to get as real as it can get, because you want to feel as physically capable as possible. I'm not saying you should go and compete. I'm not saying you should even need to do hard sparring, but definitely hitting pads, getting into classes like boxing classes, Muay Thai classes, Jiu-Jitsu classes, MMA classes, I would personally recommend over something like karate or something else. I'm not saying karate is inherently bad, but when I learned karate, it was a lot of on your own drills. You were just hitting thin air and doing kata, right? And that stuff can be applicable if you know how to use it. But I was still even afraid when I was younger of what it felt like to actually hit something or hit someone. And it wasn't until I got into sparring situations in karate that I learned that. In my first Muay Thai class, I hit pads. I'd done drills where you try and touch the other person's shoulder, right? You try and get to them, you slip and move. I hit the bag. I'd done that in my first ever Muay Thai class, right? So you get right to the point of what you're trying to get to as soon as you start, right? And don't be afraid of these things. Again, just go to the class, tell them you've never done anything like that before. And a common misconception, this is a side point, but it will help again with point number 1 and point number 2. If you're afraid of these places, they are the most respectful places I've ever been to with people, the most respectful people I've ever met. People often think that martial artists are violent and disrespectful and aggressive. Honestly, I would say the opposite is true. They are capable of violence, but they're most respectful because they've been around people for a good portion, or if not the whole of their lives, that could also be capable of violence. And so there's an inherent respect there that the people around you are physically capable, which ties into this point, right? So I would say get yourself in the gym, build yourself up physically with resistance training, hitting the right calories, hitting the right protein. I'll cover that in separate videos. We can talk about that in the comments if you have questions. And also get yourself into some kind of martial arts. And finally, to recap as well, build yourself up mentally, right? Challenge yourself in your job. Put yourself forward for things. Take on responsibility, okay? One thing I wanted to do in my career, especially early on, so I have an IT career and a coaching career, okay? I split my time evenly between those. On my fitness journey, I tried to learn as much as possible and challenge myself along the way. That's what fitness is all about. And in my IT career, I tried to do the same. I tried to take on as much responsibility as I could manage as early as possible. When there was something people didn't want to do, I said I would do it. Become that guy, right? And you might think, oh, you're picking up the grunt work, but there's studies that show if you stay 10% more hours, you get like up to 40% more better pay, something like that. I'm probably butchering it, but Jordan Peterson talks about this. Set yourself apart from the crowd. It's actually much easier to do that than a lot of people realize. And oftentimes it's taking on jobs that people don't want to do in your work. It's staying slightly longer. And the last thing is, especially nice guys, I can speak for myself, is be vocal about these things. It's not about showing off or bragging. It's about making sure the right people know that you're moving forward. This is especially important in your career. If you're the best person in the room and no one knows about it, then how is that serving you, right? That's why in the IT world, you'll have the sharpest, most technical people, but they don't have the best people skills or not client facing, and people don't know how good they are and they're not compensated for their skill set. Okay. So just to recap one more time, build yourself up physically by getting into a gym, by going into a martial arts gym. That will also build you up mentally. Also sharpen yourself mentally by putting yourself out there in your job, taking on harder tasks, setting yourself apart from the crowd to excel yourself further. And the final step I want to give you in this video is assert yourself one step at a time. I've already kind of talked about this in the other steps, but break things down. Oftentimes we can get scared of big goals, or we beat ourselves up for not getting to the goal too quickly. We want results fast. That's in every area of life. We want to earn money fast. We want to lose or gain weight fast. And what I think is important to realize on any journey is you're in it for the long run, right? You want to be the type of man who's capable. You want to be the type of man who's not afraid. You want to be the type of man who has the habits required for the rest of your life, not just for 8 weeks or 12 weeks, right? So in a way, it doesn't really matter how long it takes, so long as you're moving forward, right? You'll get there eventually, right? Yes, speed is important. Yes, you want to optimize every step of the way to make sure you're getting there as quick as possible. Yes, you do, but know that you're going to be there for the long run. And so break things down into manageable steps. Even if it's a step you think is pathetic, right? I make this so clear to everyone. One thing I picked up on the last few years doing the online coaching thing was a lot of people were out of work, as you can imagine. And what I would often hear from people is, well, there's no jobs. And then I'd ask them, how many jobs have you applied to this week? And maybe they'd say one or none. How many jobs did you apply to last week? One or none. How many jobs have you applied to this month? Maybe one or two, right? What you want to do is set yourself the bare minimum you can do every day to work towards these things, right? So if you can only do 2 resistance training sessions a week, you do 2 a week. If you can only go once a week to a Muay Thai gym or a boxing gym, you go once a week, right? That's 3 workouts a week. Most people can do that. I've worked with people that work 12 to 14-hour days, have kids, and they still turned up and did 2 to 3 workouts a week, okay? In your job, again, take on one step at a time. Don't take on all the responsibility at work, but if you've got your work done in a day, wait to get all the tasks you've got on your plate that you need to do done, then go and ask for a bit more work. Just you showing that you're interested in taking on more work will say a lot about you and will put you ahead of the game. Quick story, in my first job, my manager at the time, who I'm really good friends with, he actually thought I was stupid because of the way I came across. It was a prejudgment on his part, but he just thought I wasn't that technically capable in my IT job, so he gave me easy tasks. I went up to him and I said, I want a technical piece of work that I just work on for me. I own completely end to end, where I can engage with the customer and I can work on it, do everything from the design to the build, everything. He said, fair play, man. I'm glad you came up to ask. I didn't know you were capable of taking on something. Let's see how you get on. And from then on, it opened up more doors for me down the line because I asked, not even because of the job I did on the piece of work, right? So just push yourself forward one step of it at a time. Focus on getting to the gym. Focus on prepping the meal. Focus on asking for more work in your job. And do that hour by hour, day by day, week by week, and just keep pushing yourself one step at a time, and you will get there. So I just want to recap the 3 steps in this video, and then I'm going to give you a bonus tip. The first one was ask yourself, are you nice or are you just afraid? The second one is, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So you want to make sure you're capable rather than not being capable. Number 3 is assert yourself one step at a time and make sure the step is something you could do and would do. And the bonus tip is read or listen to No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. I think I'm getting his name correctly. But No More Mr. Nice Guy is the name of the book. It talks about a lot of the ideas I've covered here today, and it goes even deeper. I've listened to it. I've even got my partner to listen to it, because one thing it talks about in the book is making sure the people closest to you in your life know that you're on this journey and you're not on it alone. Okay, so if you're already on this journey, if you've read the book, if you want to get started, let's talk about it in the comments. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and there'll probably be a video up here and up here to watch more content from us, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks, guys.